everyone. We're here in the Lean in Pakistan headquarters at the Barak Center, and we have for Lean in Pakistan Foundation story number 15, the incredible, the dynamic, the amazing Varah Musavvir, who is a tour de force just onto herself. She is known as the Firefly girl. She is, of course, chair of the Lean in Pakistan Handicrafts Circle, and she's the queen of all things handmade. In fact, one of her thrilled to have you here, Varah.
No, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Wonderful. So now Varah is such a trooper and a true professional that even though she does have a little fever today, although she still looks very, very beautiful and on top of things, she is here in the studio because she's such a proud member of Lean in Pakistan. So Varah, if you could tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in the very first moment you knew you were going to be the Firefly girl, or you were the Firefly girl.
To be very frank, Firefly was very spontaneous, and I think it took many, many years for it to manifest. It started out, you know, how some of us have a tendency to write journals. So we write our thoughts, we write our feelings, we record quotes and poetry that inspires us. So I had been doing that since I was like 15 years old. And the book that I used to write in, I personified it and I called that Firefly. So as I got older and I was in university, I was in fact in my third year. So one day I was sitting around and I found one of those wallet-sized greeting cards that, you know, you get from Hallmark and American Greetings and stuff abroad. I had grown up with the notion of these gifting and greeting items living abroad. And I used to love it. I used to go with my mom to these stores after school because she was a teacher and she'd pick up inspiring stuff for her classes that way. So I would look at it and I'd be like, why can't we have this in Pakistan? Why can't we have a product that says made in Pakistan? So that was the very first day I sort of went. I did some doodles. I got some cards made. And that was it. And because it was so special, because it was so important to me, I just made up an album on Facebook and I called it Firefly, and I ended up putting these things in there. And that's how Firefly as a brand, I think, started growing and happening. And within 6 months, we had a bunch of other Fireflies around the city. At that time, no one was doing similar work in gifts and greetings. I had started handmade work. I had started introducing like scrapbooking and stuff like that in what I was making and offering to customers. And it just started taking up from there. And then I ended up doing like different pop-ups and exhibitions, like really, really big exhibitions as well. And I always felt like Firefly did not fit in anywhere. Like you could go, you could pay a stall fee, you could put up your work at an exhibition, but the visibility, the response, and the sort of feedback you'd expect for a small craft-based business, it was very missing, I think, from all of these opportunities. And that kind of, I think, built up the platform or built up my need. You know, entrepreneurs, they find solutions. So I think that's how we kind of came up with the Crafters Guild, and that we want a platform that caters to crafters, especially in Pakistan, where a crafter can put up their work, they can be proud of it, they can learn more about it, they can share with people, hey, I'm really passionate about this. This is my baby. This is my world. And you know, people could appreciate them for it. So that's how we started picking up the Crafters Guild and creating a community of like-minded people who advocate for handmade work. So you have the entire community of crafters themselves. These are people who create products with a lot of passion, with a lot of heart. Everything is handmade. And then you have a community of patrons, people that appreciate this, people that show up at every event, people that want to support local, people who come and shop handmade and they're like, hey, I'm stocking up for the next 6 months. Hey, I'm stocking up for the next wedding season in my family, or the next round of birthdays in my family. So, you know, this is how we started in 2012. Last year, we completed 10 years as a Crafters Guild community. And this is all under Firefly. This is like a social responsibility initiative for us. So whatever we're doing, initially, I never used to talk about my advocacy projects or the vocational trainings we would offer or the collaborations we do with like different NGOs or organizations. But I had a conversation with a very dear friend once, and he told me that, but till you talk about these things, till people see what you're doing, you're not going to be able to do more of it. And he was very right, because obviously, till someone has that awareness that, oh, okay, this is what they're doing or this is what they do. I guess I used to be really humble about it and used to be really modest about the efforts that we're making or the people we're helping or the communities we're working with. But after that, I started sort of changing my focus and projecting a little more on the immense amount of social responsibility we're doing to give back to people in the community. Because Pakistan is a society as such where there's always someone to be helped and there's always someone helping. And with crafts, they're a very, very big part of Pakistan. And sadly, because of certain dynamics, our exports and our handicraft sector doesn't flourish as much as it should be. But at the same time, we have some great indie brands. We have some great local startups, especially in the last 4 years. They started during the pandemic. We've had a big boom for handmade work, cottage industries, small scale brands popping up, women working from home. So it's very exciting. It's very, I think it's inspiring that we've been able to do this, because that's how this started, right? This awareness began. Every time we'd have a craft show, there'd be so many people that come in and they're like, oh my gosh, this is happening in Pakistan. Oh, wow, my aunt does this. Oh, I have a sister who makes this. I have a cousin who does this. So, this sort of started picking up. And I think it's beautiful how crafts bring people together. And, it's been really exciting for us to kind of, start coming from how we started and like where we are now.
Fantastic. So let's be a little bit unpacking. Let's unpack a little bit of what you said. So first, to be as basic as it comes, can you define what crafts are, just for people who don't know what that is?
Okay, so crafts in general very much vary. They are created with the skill. They are made with the skill set. They're usually artisan based. Oftentimes they're handmade. There are a lot of crafts that are now semi-machine, semi-handmade. But crafts, there are all sorts. There are textiles, there are home decor items, there are creative textiles, there are items of pottery, different ceramics. I would say that even certain kind of paintings and certain kind of uh, fine art is a craft. We also encounter crafts in different techniques. Jewelry making is a craft. Bag making is a craft. We have paper making as a craft. There are people who are doing mixed media work where they create different objects, which is a craft. So craft by far is very vast. And with the awareness we're having in Pakistan now, that's also growing. Like there's a lot of resin craft now in the market. It wasn't 3 years ago. Now every other girl, every other woman working from home is pursuing a handmade business with resin art. We have people who are making tumblers and planters out of concrete. So, there's a lot of dynamic now in the types of crafts available to us. It's also no longer restrictive to, let's say, the handicrafts that people would make in the village side, with traditional banana leaves or date leaves or things of that sort. We now have crafts that are very urban as well. So, you have these traditional weaves and knots and techniques, and you have people making modern jackets and very funky beanies in crochet, knitwear, things of that sort. So it's very diversified today if you start exploring the dynamics there.
Fantastic. But one common thread seems to be a lot of things are handmade.
Yeah.
So if the same outfits are block printed by a textile factory, it wouldn't be considered the craft that if someone at home or a woman business was actually stamping it by hand.
It would be a craft because that still has a technique. Block printing in a factory might be on a larger scale. They may have more workers. They may have some of their steps systemized or mechanized for convenience, but it would still be a craft. Like the ajrak making process, that is a hardcore craft because there's so many meticulous levels and sort of techniques to it. Um, I would say a woman working from home doing block printing, that would be the same as someone doing it in a city side karkhana as well. Factories, they may have different means of production. They may have some little shortcuts in the process, but I would still say it's a craft.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that clarification because if people are watching, they themselves or relatives or friends are doing something that falls under that sphere, they can reach out and be a part of your community, which would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
So we unpacked a little bit about what it means to be a craft. Can you deeper into what it means to be a Sindhi craft, particularly historically, because a lot of people don't know that the heritage of Pakistan, and in particular Sindh, but even Mohenjo-daro and all over the nation, there are very strong craft roots.
So because technology, mechanized processes, all of that started coming in a few hundred years ago, you would find craft pretty much in every part of the world. Um, Mohenjo-daro, rural parts of Sindh, the old Indus Valley civilization, parts of India, Pakistan, all of that. You will find a bit of craft everywhere you go. Like anywhere in the world you go, you'll find craft. Whether it's the frescoes, in ancient Rome, or the rose glass windows in cathedrals all over Europe, that is a craft. It's a traditional technique. It originated at a certain place. It was done a certain way. So for Sindh, there's just a lot of history and story because of the Indus Valley civilization. There's actually that statue of the head priest that was found, and it's believed that he was wearing the ajrak even back then. So this is a technique that they had created and formulated, and they had worked with. This was more their indigenous craft. It was more native to where they were living, because the colors that they were using, the dyes that they were making, the steps that they were using, they were very prevalent in their surroundings. It was what they were accustomed to working with. So obviously, anywhere you live, you build your house with materials you find around it. Anywhere you live, you start eating and feasting on food items that are accessible to you nearby. Similarly, I think for crafts, you start working with products or items that are readily accessible to you. So let's say the handicrafts of Sindh will be a little different from the handicrafts of Punjab because of the raw materials that are accessible in the market or in the natural surroundings. Markets are developed a few hundred years ago, but before that, people residing, they would opt for natural resources. That's why we have a lot of these banana leaf platters. We have a lot of pottery because there are kilns all over that they bake those pottery pieces, ceramics, tiles, all of that. Sindh is known for a lot of this. Similarly, it's known for like the kachur palm, and the women weave with it. There's case. It's a special kind of like I wouldn't call it a chadar and I wouldn't call it a rug, but it's an in between. It's made a certain way on a certain loom. So these are all crafts that are native to Sindh, and they originated from here because of the traditions of the people of Tharparkar, or the people of Sindh. Um, it's a desert. There's no color. There's no uh, flower blooming or anything of that sort. So obviously, people would opt for color to kind of liven up their surroundings, and to be able to be seen in the middle of nowhere at a distance. People could tell that, hey, there's someone out there. Maybe they need help or whatever. So I think this has progressed over the years as well, because now, like even the relief form, the applique work that is native to Sindh, there's a lot of design intervention happening. So there are a lot of women who started working with artisans in these communities and colonies, where they're creating high-end products, where they're doing traditional techniques, but the design, the color, the aesthetic is very modern. And I think that's what we've been seeing on the runway with, brands like Dior, or you have Dolce and Gabbana. They're sticking to traditional crafts and, very meticulous detailing. But it all originates here because that's how it was done for the royals. That's how it was done, for people of wealth at one time as well. Something as traditional, as simple as embroidery can be taken as a craft, something as meticulous as a type of embroidery, like you see the brocade work and everything on our formal outfits and garments, that can be taken as a very traditional craft as well.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned Dolce and Gabbana and Dior. Dolce and Gabbana had a collection, I think 3 years ago, which had wonderful, colorful looks that were quite similar to truck art. And a lot of people were like, but this is truck art. And yet it had very strong Italian roots. And I
I
thought
think
we'd talk a
that's
little bit about that.
anything that people see with a lot of kitsy color, they associate it with truck art. But I think there's a lot of similarity between Scandinavian design and some of our elements here. So I think it does overlap. People are like, oh, but this is truck art, whereas it's a very I think all cultures, all places have some similarities. They have some things that are very, very, like even in Mexican art or Mexican craft, there's a lot of similarity because of the materials and things that they use. So people are like, oh, this is made in Pakistan also. This is what we get readily available here. But I think every culture has a similar craft at some level because of the materials available, the technique they use to make it. So I think there is always overlapping, and I laugh every time someone calls Scandinavian style art Pakistani truck art. I think it's because of all the color and the blue that's in there that people make that association.
Absolutely. Varah, you spoke a little bit about growing up abroad and then being very young and starting handicraft and scrapbooking. And scrapbooking was really popular maybe 10, 15 years ago in the West. Can you talk a little bit about what sort of age you were when you were living abroad and where you lived, and the move to Pakistan and what that was like for you?
Um, we had done a lot of back and forth with the U.S. many times, but my prime years of schooling in middle school up to high school were in the U.S. I was more in Dallas, and then we spent about a year in Florida. I moved back to Pakistan in 2002, 2003, and the change and the adjustment was very intense, more so because of my schooling. The studies were more difficult, and it was just a very big adjustment for me. But Alhamdulillah, I think that allowed me, I think, an edge. I had a little more exposure to certain things. I was able to quickly kind of befriend people and find my place in school, college, all of that. I ended up pursuing design. I was studying at IVS. I think that really kind of buffed me up and helped me through. So it's been alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. It really allowed, I think, Firefly to kind of grow and bloom because lots of ideas, lots of things that I grew up with, stores that I grew up with, they really inspired a lot of my aesthetic today, a lot of the product lines that we have today. So I think we're always a product of the places we've been, our past. And I think that kind of really gives exposure to what Firefly is today as well.
Wonderful. Varah, you also have done this amazing project recently, just in Ramzan, for Unilever. Can you speak a little bit about that? Because it's very exciting, not just for you and not just for Pakistan, but for your entire community of crafts.
Okay,
people?
so this actually picked up last year where we started working with Angro, and we would do like small pop-ups. We would curate the pop-ups and things for them, and we would endorse women entrepreneurs that needed that push, that had amazing work, but sort of lacked maybe that exposure or that opportunity. So we would help curate these little exhibitions for them and within their, you know, amongst their staff and stuff. So this journey I think started last year, and Unilever did get in touch with us, but it didn't materialize at that time because time was really short. I think this was around August last year. But obviously, their team was familiar with the work we're doing with crafters, with makers in our community. So the crux of this recent project, it was very big for us because it's like, oh my gosh, finally, we're here for the craft community. Apart from like our exhibitions and stuff like that, we've always pushed forward crafters. We've done several opportunities, at different events and the consulates and stuff as well. But this was different because this time it was actually advocating for women and for them to be empowered financially as well. So the idea was to conduct a pre-Eid campaign, and we were reached out to do to share different options for giveaways and merchandise that the company could distribute. I'm not sure what their mechanism is, but this is for different activation activities that they were doing in Lahore, Islamabad, and Karachi. And it was pretty cool because initially I thought I would end up, sourcing 4 to 5 women to do this because there were different items and all of that. But by the time we had a list of how many units were needed and the time frame we had, I thought it was such a big opportunity to outsource it to more and more women. And I utilized my social media network. Our craft community was completely active on this. And I would put up calls, I need someone who makes this, I need someone who makes that. Initially, we sent in around 25 different products to Unilever to kind of shortlist from. We had put up an open call. So people who were interested in sending their samples, they sent them in. We forwarded them to Unilever. Unilever then internally decided what they wanted. For the campaign, it was more Ramadan Eid centric items like jewelry, accessories, gift items, stuff like that. So they shortlisted a few of the products that we had sent. And then between a little back and forth, we started taking this up. So, in fact, today is another consignment that's supposed to ship out. So, we completed around 4,900 units of scrunchies, pendants, little candles, earrings, hoops, studs, things of that sort. And we were able to empower 15 women and engage them with this project. So it was huge for them because not only was this a corporate project that they were working with through us, but this was also really big because they were getting, orders in bulk. They're doing like one person's doing 500 pieces, one's doing 200 pieces, one's doing 450 pieces. One is like, I can only do 100, I can only do 150. I was like, whatever works for you. And there were a lot of instances where everyone's like, hey, I have the capacity to do more. I can make more for you. Like I can do the entire batch. And I think it was very difficult for me to stand my ground there. And I was like, you know what? I understand and I gladly do it. But I think over here, we should engage and pass this work on to maximum people. Like, that everyone should grow. Everyone should be prospering together. Everyone should be having this exposure or opportunity together. So I think it was pretty cool how we started with maybe only 4 or 5 people, and we ended up with 15 women taking this up. And we've been taking in deliveries every day, like even as late as 1 a.m. And oh my gosh, it's been crazy. But the work is just so beautiful. And when you see everything come together, they've worked so hard. They've worked so hard. So alhamdulillah, mashallah, mashallah, touch wood. I think it it was pretty cool for us. It was pretty exciting. Yeah.
Fantastic. And what wonderful work you do. You're amazing at sharing your skills, your platform. And one of the things, since this is Lean In, is can you talk or share a bit about a special moment in your life where you leaned in or really focused on a career move or career opportunity?
Um, I mean, the work I've done all these years isn't very conventional. I tell that to everybody. Because when you look at your career, you're progressing. It's stable. Um, and you're identified with one thing. But for me, I think there's always been so many different aspects and elements happening, and I'm just lucky that Firefly kind of holds everything together. But one thing I remember was a few years ago. This was maybe 7, 8 years ago. And I was doing really well as Firefly. I was doing really well with the Crafters Guild. And I had this opportunity where someone asked me to step up as CEO for an upcoming brand. And what that brand would mean was a lot of glitz, a lot of glam, um, very well paying, all of that. And I remember coming home and telling my parents, my family about it. So my mom was like, explore it, see what works for you, but then also see, how sustainable it is for you. And at that time, my father asked me a question. He said, so when you start this work, um, how will it impact the craft community you've been working with? Like, is this going to empower them? Is this going to help them? If you're fully focused on that, how are you going to sustain your craft shows? How are you going to keep up with the Crafters Guild? How will you make time for it? And I was like, no, that's manageable. All of that, just I was really young at that time too. So it's probably been more than 7, 8 years then. Um, and he said one thing. He said, always, always pursue something that allows you to benefit other people, that allows you to help other people. I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't worry about it. You're just really excited about this new opportunity. And the same day, I received a text message and I had received a small, like a token of appreciation. I had just probably had a craft show. So I opened up this little gift one of the crafters had sent me. She was this young girl. She used to make little, really cute envelopes and stuff. So I started opening her little envelopes. They were all handmade. And then in it, she had it was literally this size. And she had written me a note. It was a letter she had folded inside. And I still remember it. And she said it that, I have been suffering from depression. And you have no idea what your platform did for me because no one in my house, in my family understood why I do this. And you understood me and you made it possible for me. So you have no idea how gratifying and happy this platform has been for me and my state at this time. And the same day, I had another woman message me that if you had not pushed me, I would have never explored the side of myself. So this platform means a lot to me. So please never stop doing this. Please never, give this up. And I was like, oh my goodness. So this is it. This is my epiphany. This is my sign that I should pursue this instead. And alhamdulillah, I'm glad my father kind of mentioned that to me because it started working with the timing that, God sent that message. And, it was so beautiful. And I think since then I've been very stubborn. I'm like, nope, rain, shine, hail, high water, this is happening. We're doing this. So I kept it up then.
Wonderful. What an inspiring story. And we have to congratulate you on your engagement, which is just a few days old, I believe, and wish
Very,
you all
very,
the best.
thank
I'm
you so
sure
much.
your whole experience through this process of next stage of life will include the crafters more than anything. You will exemplify.
Absolutely.
I know you
Absolutely.
gorgeous wedding albums anyhow, but even every step of the way in every part of this journey. And we would love to hear more about that. But now we are out of time. So we just want to wish you all the best. And thank you
Thank you
so
so much.
much, Varah.
No. It's an honor, and I'm happy to help connect whatever way I can with other makers and creators in our community.
Thank you. Bye.